Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to entitled people, where people truly believe it's all about them and they can do what they want when they want. And in today's episode, OP, who used to work in an old folks home, tells a story about a psycho Karen who attempts to end her own mom's life, guys, for a huge inheritance payout. Holy moly, it's wild. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your stories to this email right here. Let's dive in. I used to work at a pizza place in Los Angeles. I've encountered the worst Karens ever, but this one stands out to me the most. One day, I had a customer come in with her young daughter, probably around 8 years old. They had balloons and other birthday items. The first thing the mother says is, "It's my daughter's birthday today, you know?" To which I said, "Happy birthday" to the daughter, who then replies with, "Thank you, but it was actually last Friday." Hearing that, the mom kind of had a nervous look on her face, and she gave her daughter a glare, but quickly took it off. I didn't see this as a red flag, but it was definitely strange. They look over the menu for a minute or two and then place the order. It was roughly $100 worth of food. The mom then asked me if we can deliver to a nearby park, where they would be having the birthday party. Now this was also strange, as people usually place delivery orders over the phone, but this has happened a couple of times before, so I didn't think much of it. Once it comes time for payment though, the mom asked if we have any sales or specials going on. Now this pizza place is popular and relatively high-end, so we rarely offer any kind of discounts. I told her no, we don't have any kind of discounts. The woman then gives me this reluctant okay, and then she asks for the price. So I tell her the price, and that's when she tries to haggle with me, saying there's no way she's paying that amount for dough and cheese. I told her I couldn't lower the price, but the woman kept on insisting I could, and that I was holding out, and I'd better give her a deal on the food. Eventually, I just gave up, and I said I would give her 10% off, using our friends and family discount. She then asked for 25% off. I told her no, that she could take the 10% or leave. Well, the woman left. The whole thing was weird, but we've dealt with scammers once in a while. I've never had someone try to haggle me before, but this isn't the weird part. So about 10 minutes after this all went down, the daughter comes inside. She's alone. She's holding a smartphone in her hand. The daughter then comes up to me and she asked if we can get more than 10% off their order. And she asked me if 25% was good. It's at that point I noticed the mom was on speakerphone with her. That's why she had the phone in her hand. The mom was listening to the conversation. She had sent her daughter in, hoping I would feel bad for the kid and give them a discount. I definitely did feel bad for the daughter. She was so embarrassed it made me furious. So that's when I leaned closer to the phone so that mom could hear me. And I said, "I told you, sweetheart. I can't give you the discount, and it's kind of awful that your mom's making you do this. Unlike your mom, you seem like a really nice sweet girl, so how would you like a free slice of pizza?" I then show her all the slices we had, hoping she would feel better. She then says she doesn't like pizza as it's one of her least favorite foods. This only further confirmed that the mom's a trashy piece of crap who used her daughter to scam us for cheaper pizza. That's when my blood boiled. Like, how can anyone do that? And for goodness sake, don't get your kid involved in your scheme. Anyways, I then offered the daughter a free soda. She didn't accept. I then offered her a bottle of water. She also didn't accept. Eventually, she told me she doesn't want anything from us at all, but her mom kept forcing her to do this despite her not wanting to. I just told her she was really nice and she should never do what her mom's doing. I wish I had the chance to speak with mom alone, so I could tell her that she's a piece of crap and she should go F herself. I just hope the daughter doesn't grow up to be like her mom. And F that mom for making her daughter lie. Thank goodness for kids and their honesty, right? And like OP said, guys, I do feel bad for that girl being forced to go in by her mom to basically guilt trip OP into giving more of a discount. Like, holy crap, lady, give it up. And I also bet this isn't the mom's first time doing something like that. With that said though, it seems the daughter's old enough to recognize that this is all wrong, and she'll hopefully grow up to be total opposite of mom. So when my daughter was 11 years old, the only thing she wanted for her birthday was some heavy-duty rope, so she and her brother could play in the woods, and do things like make tree swings. My husband and I went to Home Depot and we bought her something like 15 feet of rope that ended up costing $50. We wanted her to have some nice rope. Now, it was an unusual thing for a girl to ask for her birthday, but we wanted her to be able to use it the way she was imagining, so we didn't mind spending more than we expected getting this rope. At the time, we lived in this enormous community that had hundreds of acres of natural areas and parks, filled with big, old live oaks, so plenty of trees for everyone to enjoy in whatever way they pleased. One day, my daughter, our son, and 2 friends of theirs took the rope to a nearby park. They looped it around some tree branches to swing off of. They were minding their own business in the park when this little boy, who's about 4 years old, approaches them, watching them swinging. They asked if he wanted to try, but he said his mom wouldn't let him. They then said okay, and went back to swinging. Pretty soon, the little boy's Karen mom comes over and told them they needed to untie the rope and leave the park because her son was too young to swing, and it wasn't fair that he had to watch them have fun while he couldn't. Now, for safety's sake, I had trained my kids that they didn't have to do anything a strange adult told them to do, and if a stranger did ask them to do anything, that they should give the adult my phone number and tell them to call me, which is what my daughter did. At that, the Karen mom just snorts and says, "I don't need to talk to your mother." She then walked back to where she and some other mothers have been having a picnic. The woman then got a knife. She came back and told my daughter and her friends to step aside, and that's when she cut my daughter's rope off the tree. My children were of course terrified that this wacky lady came at them with a knife, and then cut the rope, so they come flying home on their bikes extremely upset. When they told me the story, I was so pissed. I got inside my van and I drove to the park, looking for the woman that my children described. The woman was still there, and she was very smug and not at all sorry. I introduced myself and told her that I was the mother of the kids with the rope. She then told me the same story my kids had, and she admitted she cut the rope because her son wasn't old enough to swing, and that my kids did not obey her. And hearing that, I was astounded. I believed what my kids were saying to me, but I assumed the mom would spin it that she was worried that my kids were hurting the tree or something, or worried for my kids' safety. But no, she told me straight that she didn't want them swinging, so she just cut the rope because she felt like it. That's when I told her, "You're gonna need to pay for that rope you destroyed. That was my daughter's birthday present, and you had no right to cut it." She then said to me, "I don't think so. I'm not paying for anything, and you must be a crap parent if you got your child a rope for her birthday." At that, I was even more pissed. I wasn't sure what to do at this point, but I asked for her name and address, and she stupidly gave it to me. The woman just kind of laughed and said, "Sure, I'll give you my name. I've got nothing to hide. What are you gonna do? Sue me for cutting a rope?" I just went back to my van and then went home, seething with anger. I then called my husband, and my husband immediately said, "Call the police," which I did. A policeman came within 20 minutes since we lived in a pretty small town, and I told him the story. The police officer then said, "That's destruction of property. She can't do that." The woman lived within walking distance of my house, so he drove back up there to talk to her, and he was back within a few minutes saying, "She says she'll pay for the rope now, or you can press charges and I'll arrest her. It's your choice." Now, I was pretty surprised to hear that she could get arrested over destroying $50 in rope, because that really hadn't occurred to me. I thought maybe she'd get a ticket or something. When it comes to my kids, I'm a mother tiger, and by this point, I wanted this lady to spend a few hours in jail, but I didn't want to be unreasonably vindictive either. So I asked the cop what he thought I should do, but he said he couldn't make that choice for me. I just called my husband again, and my husband said, "Press charges. You gave her an opportunity to pay for the rope, and she didn't want to." When I told the cop I wanted to press charges, he just smiled and said, "That's the right choice. You gave her a chance to pay." He then told me he was going back to her house to arrest her, and I assumed he did because I never heard anything further about it. We ended up having to buy my daughter some new rope ourselves, but that was way worth it to put that entitled mom in her place. Guys, it sounds like karma hit that Karen full force, and I absolutely love it when people are so smug and think they're invincible and realize real quick that they aren't above the law at all. But seriously, imagine as a kid how terrifying it would be to have some random angry woman charging up to you with a knife, guys. Like a full-grown adult marching up to a group of kids with a knife in her hand. I'm just glad that Karen had to spend a few hours in jail that day. as that'll hopefully make her think twice about destroying property in the future. Okay, so I'm gonna share a story today that I probably shouldn't be talking about, to be honest, so I'll do my best to not give away anything I shouldn't. I work as a nurse now, but this story happened when I was in school, completing my second practicum of 4. The site I was working at was a long-term care facility, which some people might call an old folks' home. Where I live, healthcare is covered by the government, but there are still some companies that offer separate, non-funded healthcare for people who would like to pay for it. It sometimes is better, depending on location and company. This care facility happened to be one of those private ones, where all the people who were living there were paying to be there. And this is important because that means all of the people come from families with enough money to pay for their loved ones to live there. I worked at this facility for 3 months, primarily in the lockdown dementia ward. I really enjoyed it. Most of the families were quite friendly, but there were a few who were awful. Think of someone really rich and evil that you've seen in movies or on TV, and I've probably met someone similar in real life. The woman in this story is one of them. The woman of this story was a huge Karen, and she was the daughter of one of my clients. Her mother was one of my favorite clients. She was very positive and easygoing. The woman had severe dementia, and she was often hard to understand, but she loved visiting and laughing with anyone who she met. Karen, however, was a stern businesswoman who was coddled on her mother's fortune since an early age. Now, I don't remember exactly why Mom was so wealthy, but I do vaguely remember that she was a widow of some sort of local business tycoon. Whenever Karen would visit, my shifts were hell. She would sit in her mom's room and she would non-stop ring the nurse bell call, just so we would bring her snacks or open the curtains. She would also follow staff members around, criticizing all of their work. And once, I caught her snooping in another client's room, looking through her jewelry box, and I reported her. Also, sometimes she would come with her kids, and she would let them run around and disrupt all the staff and other clients. They tried to break into the medicine cabinet once, and tried to rip the needle disposal bin off the wall. And one time, Karen rang the code blue bell, which triggers a massive emergency protocol among the staff. Someone could get her a glass of water. After that, she was only allowed supervised visits to the premises. She was lucky we didn't ban her completely. When Karen's mother became nonverbal, Karen really ramped up the entitlement. In my country, we have this procedure called medical assistance in dying. That means if a client says that their time is up, that means doctors will assist them with their wishes. Karen had control of her mom's finances, but a large chunk was not accessible to her until after her mother's passing, as it was her mother's money for private health care. Of course, the less health care her mother needed, the less of that money would be spent, and the more money Karen would get. So when her mom became nonverbal, her daughter decides that she was worthless. And she actually said that to me in front of her mom. She said, the only useful thing Mom can do now is die and give me her money. I could use it on much better things, like taking my kids to Disneyland. And yes, she really said that to me. I hated her. She didn't care about her mom at all. The only thing she wanted was her money. I felt so bad for Mom, who thankfully didn't understand what her daughter said out loud in front of her. Things just kept going downhill though. Karen came in a few times with a lawyer to try to talk to Mom's physician about the medical-assisted death, to push the process. But she was always escorted off the premises. Luckily, there's a restriction on medical-assisted death, in which the client cannot consent to the procedure if they're mentally incompetent of understanding the implications of the procedure. As Mom's dementia prevented her from understanding what a sock was, she was obviously unable to consent, and she was never at risk. The final blow in this story was what got Karen arrested and criminally charged. One of my coworkers told me, as this happened when I wasn't working. My coworker walked into the room one day and she caught the daughter trying to smother her mom with a pillow. She was then promptly arrested and taken away, and I never saw her again. Although the mom was not seriously injured by the attack, she did pass away in the last week of my practicum. She was a really sweet lady who didn't deserve to be abused by her family, and I'm glad my coworker was able to be with her when she passed, so she wasn't alone. And I know this isn't the most gratifying story, as there's not really any closure, but that daughter was by far the most entitled, most evil person that I've ever met. I didn't find out what happened to Karen criminally, as I was no longer working at the facility at the time, and therefore confidentiality kicked in, and I wasn't allowed to discuss former clients with people unless it was legally or medically necessary. For this same reason, I also don't know what happened with Mom's money, but I believe in my country it goes to the next deemed heir, which was her son, who never visited her and she never talked about. So I mean, he's not nearly as bad of a person as Karen, but abandoning your parent to live alone in a nursing home without visiting is another kind of crappy, in my opinion. So yeah, the post ends right there, guys, but honestly, I hope the daughter got years behind bars for attempted murder and she doesn't see a cent of that money. Like, I also want to say, what kind of kid does this to their own parent? But seriously, some people's entitlement and greed goes to extremes, guys, especially when it comes to money. I also want to say that I hope her kids treat her the same when she grows older, so she faces what she deserves. But at the same time, I want her to never see the light of day again, guys. Because like OP said, she's an evil woman. Alright, so my boyfriend is a big hero fanatic, and he does everything in his power to be like one. It's really endearing, and it's one of the many things I love about him because he wants to be the good he wishes to see in the world. But this mindset he has is why we're fighting right now. Here's the story. He was at my apartment and he suggested that we go on a night walk since we've been getting stir crazy from being inside all day. I was hesitant because we live in a bad neighborhood, but he assured me he would protect me. On our walk, we were cornered by a man with a knife that demanded our wallets. Now I remembered John Mulaney's Street Smarts bit from Netflix, and I was gonna throw my wallet past the mugger so we could run away. But my boyfriend starts arguing with the guy. He was spouting a bunch of stuff about justice and how the mugger would not get away with this. It looked like he was getting ready to fight the guy. I was taken aback by this, and I guess the mugger was too, because it gave me enough time to take the important stuff out of my wallet while he was distracted. I then interrupt my boyfriend's monologue and I said, "Just take it, don't hurt us," and threw it behind the guy. When the guy turned, I grabbed my boyfriend's hand and we booked it back to the apartment. We got home safely and I was relieved we were okay, but my boyfriend was fuming. He was pissed that I interrupted him from protecting me, when he could have, in his words, clearly handled it himself. I told him the guy had a knife and he could have seriously gotten injured or worse. And that's when my boyfriend looks at me and he said he was obviously stronger than the guy and the mugger would have never won. Again, I explained to him the guy had a knife and my boyfriend didn't, so the odds were stacked against him. Not only that, but I didn't want my boyfriend to lose his life over a damn wallet. We argued for longer than necessary, so I shut it down, and I told him we could talk about it when the adrenaline wasn't so high, but I need to file a police report while the event was fresh. My boyfriend stomped off to our room while I called the cops. When I was off the phone, I went to lay with him, but he rolled away from me and ended up going to leave to his mom's. The next day, he was still angry, and he already told his friends and family what happened to us. Now I thought they'd be understanding how I handled it, but they were actually mad at me for not letting him have his opportunity to be a hero. His mom even ridiculed me for emasculating him. I want to reopen the conversation so we can understand each other and move past it, but if he's not receptive, I'm gonna ask him to move back in with his mom. I want to understand where I went wrong, if I went wrong. But honestly, I feel like he's being childish and unreasonable. So I want to know, am I the a-hole in this situation? Yeah, honestly, I don't think OP's the a-hole at all, guys, and a lot of people agree. Like, no matter how big and tough the guy is, and how much of a superhero he tries or thinks he can be, in those situations, you never know what's gonna happen. Like, what if things went terribly wrong, and the mugger ended up being like a ninja with that knife? And OP's delusional boyfriend realizes, oh crap, I can't take on this dude with a knife. Then what? Then the guy might end up fatally wounding the boyfriend and then coming after OP? Absolutely ridiculous, right? But guys, there is an update to this post and it gets wild. It goes, so he called me last night and I answered. He asked if I was okay and how I was doing. He then asked if he could come over and I said he could. I planned on bringing everything up again myself because he's been very passive-aggressive and refusing to talk about it. But when he showed up, he immediately starts apologizing. Everything you guys pointed out, he starts agreeing with. He was saying that he was being delusional, unrealistic, the whole hero fantasy isn't healthy, and he jeopardized my safety and that wasn't okay. Now, I wasn't prepared for this behavior, especially compared to how he's been acting all week. So we talked for hours and then went to bed together, and everything seemed to work out fine. I was really on the verge of ending things, so that was a relief. And then this morning came and crap hit the fan. I texted a friend who was mediating things, and I told them things worked out. And they said something along the lines of, "I'm so glad you were able to apologize." Well, obviously I didn't, so I looked into it, and I'm glad I did. Firstly, my boyfriend told everyone that that night walk was my idea. And then apparently, we were never mugged. Nope. Apparently, my entitled ass thought my boyfriend was so big and strong that I started talking crap to a stranger on the street, putting us both in danger on purpose, in an attempt to make my boyfriend show me that he was a strong man and that he could protect me. Now, if that's not bad enough, the only reason we were able to get away was because he de-escalated the situation, and that it was emasculating because he was put into a position where he felt like he was forced to fight for my honor. The whole time, I'm thinking, are you effing kidding me? So to make a long story short, I confronted him, and he tried to play dumb and backpedal this morning when I confronted him. When I pressed him to be honest, he snapped again, and he said, "What was I supposed to say? The whole situation was embarrassing, and it was making me look bad. I had to do something about it." We argued again for a bit, but I was done. I told him to go and that this isn't going to work. The guy didn't have much stuff, so it was easy to put into a spare grocery bag and toss it at him, while he angrily left. He's currently outside my complex waiting for mommy to pick him up. As far as I'm concerned, I dodged a bullet. F his friends, F his mom, and F him. Yeah, again, I'm just gonna say that I've seen a lot of videos of situations similar to OP's, and a lot of the times, I'm just gonna say it's better to get out of there. And this person comments and says, "I actually taught self-defense classes for a time. Knives are literally the worst effing weapon to defend yourself against. If you have a gun and adequate space to draw and fire, obviously a gun will win. But most people mugging you with a knife aren't charging across an open parking lot." A skill a lot of firearms instructors focus on is draw speed and creating distance simultaneously because of that. To disarm someone with a knife, you pretty much need to get super close to the weapon one way or another. And you know the worst place to be against a knife is close to it. So you essentially need to put yourself at a huge risk to even have the chance to disarm. And you are most certainly going to get cut in some form, even if you're successful, and one wrong cut can kill you faster than a bullet. Unless the guy's an elite fighter of some kind, or the mugger didn't really want to hurt them, he would have gotten effed up for sure. But guys, let me know what you think. Is the boyfriend in his own little world? And if you have a big and strong boyfriend or husband, and you're in a similar situation, if he says, "I got this," are you trusting him and letting him do his thing? Or are you going to do what OP did and get the heck out of there? I would love to know in the comments below. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode, where teachers get put in their place and a teacher destroys her own career, guys, by giving out insane orders. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.